So students, we have completed 13 problems. Hope you got a lot of confidence after solving so many problems. And what are the journal entries in the books of the transferor company, transferee company, how to calculate the purchase consideration, all these things we have done. Now we are in the last stage of our problems. Problem number 14. Now see the problem number 14. The Janata Company Limited is absorbed by Deluxe Company Limited. So Janata Company is absorbed means transferor company Janata Limited, and the transferee company is the Deluxe Limited. And in consideration thereof, the latter company agrees to take over the trade liabilities. This is the new point in this problem. The latter company means Deluxe Company. Deluxe Company takes over only trade liabilities, not all liabilities. Trade liabilities consist of creditors and bills payable. Creditors and bills payable, these two are called trade liabilities. If other liabilities are there in Janata, then those other liabilities will not be taken over by Deluxe Limited. That is the new point. To pay the cost of absorption 6,000. So Deluxe Limited has agreed to pay the cost of absorption. That means liquidation expense will be borne by the transferee company. So no entry in the books of the transferor company. To discharge the debentures at a premium of 10% by the issue of mortgage debentures in the Deluxe Company Limited. So debentures are there in Janata Company Limited. Those debentures are cancelled and 10% premium will be added to that. And new debentures, mortgage debentures will be issued by transferee company, Deluxe Limited. First of all, Janata Limited, nothing will be given. Simply Janata Limited will hand over the debentures to Deluxe Limited. Now Deluxe Limited will pass the entry that old debentures will be cancelled and 10% premium will be added and new mortgage debentures will be issued. Now, and to pay a sum of rupees 20 per share in cash. Per share 20 rupees. So how many shares are there in Janata Limited? You can see the balance sheet, 40,000 shares are there. So per share 20 rupees. So 40,000 into 28 lakh rupees cash will be paid by Deluxe Limited. And 4 plus 4 fully paid shares of 10 each in the Deluxe Company Limited at the market price of 15 per share in Janata Company Limited. For every 1 share in Janata Limited, Deluxe Company will issue 4 shares. 4 shares will be issued. The face value of each share is 10 rupees, but it is issued at an agreed price of 15 rupees per share. By using this, we can be able to calculate the purchase consideration. Remember, in purchase consideration, we take into account only cash and equity shares of Deluxe Limited. The debentures, settlement of debentures and payment of liquidation expenses will not be taken into account while calculating PC, according to AS 14. Now, on the basis of the above balance sheet of Janata Limited at the date of absorption, give the necessary journal entries in the books of both the companies to record the transactions. So in this problem, we are required to pass the journal entries in the books of transferor company Janata Limited and in the books of the transferee company Deluxe Limited. Balance sheet is given. Liability side, share capital 40,000 shares of rupees 50 each, fully paid 20 lakh. So 40,000 shares are there in Janata Limited. Remember that. Debentures, 5% debentures 15 lakh. Sundry creditors 1,50,000. This will be taken over because sundry creditor is a trade liability. Reserve fund, sinking fund. These two are accumulated profits. It will be transferred to equity share holders account. Then employees saving bank deposit and interest. This is a liability. These are outside liability. But this liability is not taken over by Deluxe Limited. Deluxe Limited takes over only trade liability. This is other liability. So this liability will not be taken over. It will be paid by the vendor company. Transferor company themselves have to pay this liability. P&L account is accumulated profit surplus. It will be transferred to equity shareholders. Now land and building, plant and machinery, goodwill, patent right, stock, sundry debtors, investment on account of sinking fund, cash at bank. All these assets will be taken over by the Deluxe Limited. That's all. So we'll begin with the calculation of PC, purchase consideration. First of all, we'll take the shares in Deluxe Limited. It is given in the problem, for every 1 share in Janata Limited, 4 shares will be issued by Deluxe Limited. For every 1 share in Janata Limited, 4 shares in Deluxe. For 40,000 shares in Janata, how many shares in Deluxe? So 40,000 divided by 1 into 4, 1,60,000. Totally 1,60,000 equity shares will be issued by Deluxe Limited. Face value of each share is 10 rupees, but it is issued at an agreed price of 15 rupees. So multiply 1,60,000 into 15, 24 lakh. The PC will be settled in shares, 24 lakh. Now in cash. For every one share in Janata Limited, cash rupees 20 given in the problem. For 40,000 shares in Janata, how much cash? So 40,000 by 1 into 20, you will get 8 lakh rupees. So 8 lakh rupees cash. You add up both, you will get 32 lakh as the PC, purchase consideration. The first step in solving this problem is you have to calculate the PC. Now we'll come to the journal entries in the books of the Transferor company, that is Janata Limited. Journal entry in the books of Janata Limited, I have written Transferee here, it is Transferor company. Transferor company. Now, first entry will be transfer all assets to realization. Explanation for this first entry is transfer all assets whether taken over or not. The assets should be transferred at their book values, balance sheet values. तो balance sheet में जितने assets दिया सारे assets को credit कर दिए. Realization account data to all assets individually I have credited. The total of all the assets are 40,10,000. Being the assets transferred to realization. Narration being the assets transferred to realization. Now second entry will be liabilities transferred to realization. But here in this case, transfer only those liabilities which are taken over. The liability which is not taken over should not be transferred to realization. अब हमारे प्रॉब्लम में तीन लायबिलिटीज दिया है, डिबेंचर्स, सन्ड्री क्रेडिटर्स एंड वन मोर लायबिलिटीज एम्प्लॉइज सेविंग बैंक डिपॉजिट एंड इंटरेस्ट. ये तीन में से डिबेंचर्स तो टेक ओवर कर रहा है, सन्ड्री क्रेडिटर्स आर आल्सो टेकन ओवर, बट एम्प्लॉई दैट सेविंग बैंक डिपॉजिट एंड इंटरेस्ट विल नॉट बी टेकन. तो ये दोनों को डेबिट, 5% डिबेंचर्स अकाउंट डेटा, सन्ड्री क्रेडिटर्स अकाउंट डेटा टू रियलाइजेशन. Being the liabilities which are taken over is transferred to realization. Third entry will be PC due, purchase consideration due, transferee company account data to realization. The transferee company is Deluxe. So Deluxe Limited account data to realization being the PC due. Now PC received. The purchase consideration is received in the form of shares and in cash. So equity shares in Deluxe Limited account data 24 lakh, bank account data 8 lakh to Deluxe Limited 32 lakhs. Being the purchase consideration received, being the PC receipt. Now fifth entry will be the liability which is not taken over is paid. एक liability है जनता लिमिटेड में, employees saving bank deposit and interest. This liability is not taken over by Deluxe Limited. Now this liability will be paid by Janata Limited itself. So entry will be employees saving bank deposit account data 80,000 to bank 80,000. अभी PC में cash आया है. In the form of PC, Janata Limited has received 8 lakh rupees cash. Out of this 8 lakh rupees, 80,000 rupees will be paid to complete the liability, to fulfill the liability. Being the liability which is not taken over by Deluxe Limited, now paid off. Now transfer the equity share capital and accumulated profits to equity share holders. So equity share capital account data 20 lakh, then reserve fund account data 2 lakh, sinking fund account data 50,000, P&L account data 30,000. To equity shareholder 22 lakh 80,000, the total of all this. Being the equity capital and accumulated profits transferred to equity shareholders. Next entry will be regarding the profit or loss on realization. अब उसके लिए आपको first three entries देखना पड़ेगा. First 3 entries to find out whether there is profit or loss. So first debit side realization we have 40 lakh 10,000. Credit side realization 16 lakh 50,000. Then again credit side realization 32 lakh. Now you add up these two. 48 lakh 50,000. 48, 32 plus 16, 30, 40, 48 lakh 50,000. So 48 lakh 50,000 rupees is more than debit. Credit side is more. debit side is less. When credit side is more, there is profit on realization. There is profit on realization. तो subtract कर दो इसको. 48 lakh 50,000 minus 40 lakh 10,000. You will get the balance 8 lakh 40,000. You will get the balance 8 lakh 40,000. This is called the profit on realization. The entry will be realization account data to equity shareholders account. जो profit आ गया वो equity shareholders को चले जाएगा. Being the profit on realization transferred to equity shareholders. Last and final entry, settlement of the account of equity shareholders. अब equity shareholders का account close करें. तो equity shareholders account data to equity shares in Deluxe Limited to bank. यानी जो PC आया था purchase consideration, वो purchase consideration हम पे कर दिए. किसको पे कर देंगे? Equity shareholders को. By passing this entry, all the accounts will get closed. Company बंद, finished. Now, इक्विटी शेयर्स जो आए थे 24 लाख रुपीस के इक्विटी शेयर्स आए, तो इक्विटी शेयर होल्डर्स अकाउंट डेटा टू इक्विटी शेयर्स इन डीलक्स लिमिटेड 24, टू बैंक 7,20,000. They are having the balance in bank 7,20,000. How? Actually, in the form of PC, they have received 8 lakh. 8 लाख रुपए बैंक को डेबिट करे, लेकिन 80,000 बैंक को क्रेडिट भी करे. The company has paid 80,000 to pay the liability which is not taken over by Deluxe Limited. जो डीलक्स लिमिटेड लायबिलिटी नहीं ली उसका पेमेंट कर दिए 80,000. तो 8 लाख में से 80,000 माइनस कर दो, यू विल गेट 7,20,000. दिस 7,20,000 विल बी पेड टू इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स. राइट नाउ इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स अकाउंट ऑटोमेटिकली शुड गेट क्लोज्ड. यहां पर इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स को क्रेडिट करें 22,80,000. अगेन इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स को क्रेडिट करें 8,40,000. तो 22 plus 8 30, 31,20,000 if you add up this. तो डेबिट कर रहे हैं 31,20,000, here credit also 31,20,000. So automatically equity shareholders account is closed. You can confirm yourself. If you have committed any mistake in passing this entry, this account will not get closed. That means we have done some mistake. But here we have not committed any mistake. We got alhamdulillah same. Right? Now, we'll come to the entries in the books of the Transferee company, that is Deluxe Limited. Deluxe Limited is the Transferee company. Journal entry. First journal entry, as usual, business purchase account data to liquidator of Janata Limited. Being the business purchased and PC due, 32 lakhs. Second entry, debit all assets taken over and credit all liabilities taken over and credit business purchase. The balancing figure will be taken as goodwill. The balancing figure will be taken as goodwill. So first you write goodwill balancing figure, keep it blank, don't take any amount. After seeing all debit and credit items, we decide there may be goodwill or it may be capital reserve. अगर credit side ज्यादा आ रहा, debit side कम आ रहा तो goodwill आएगा. अगर debit column में ज्यादा है और credit column में कम है तो capital reserve डालेंगे. Okay? Now, land and building, plant and machinery, patent, stock, जितने assets जनता में थे वो सारे assets को यहाँ पर डेबिट कर देंगे. All the assets will be debited. And the liabilities. The liabilities are two liabilities taken 5% debentures, sundry creditors. तो 5% debentures, sundry creditors दोनों liability ले लिए. To business purchase, first entry business purchase को डेबिट करे थे, next entry में business purchase को 32 लाख क्रेडिट कर. Now, if you find the balance separately, debit balance and credit balance, you will find that there is a difference of 12,40,000. That 12,40,000 is short in debit column. So goodwill account balancing figure 12,40,000. Now to confirm how this 12,40,000 is it correct or not? Previous video also I told you the gain of Janata Limited is the loss of Deluxe Limited. Janata Limited को gain हुआ, realization profit हुआ. How much is the realization profit? 8,40,000. तो 8,40,000 is the goodwill or extra amount paid by Deluxe Limited. वो 8,40,000 रुपए ज्यादा पे करा Deluxe Limited. तो goodwill will be 8,40,000. Apart from that, in Janata Limited also there is a goodwill, no? Goodwill account data how much? 4 lakh. तो ये 8,40,000 और ये 4 lakh दोनों मिला लो. 8 plus 4 12,50,000 we are getting the difference. अब ये गुडविल में दोनों गुडविल आ गए. एक तो गुडविल एग्जिस्टिंग गुडविल इन द बैलेंस शीट ऑफ जनता जनता लिमिटेड में एग्जिस्टिंग गुडविल 4 लाख रुपए पहले से ही है और अब परचेस करने के टाइम पे 8,40,000 रुपीज एक्स्ट्रा दिस डीलक्स कंपनी लिमिटेड इज पेइंग. तो 8,40,000 plus 4 lakh, 12,40,000 is the goodwill balancing fee. Being the assets and liabilities taken over. Now, liquid payment of PC, purchase consideration paid. Liquidator of Janata Limited account debtor 32 lakh. यहाँ पर क्रेडिट कर दें या डेबिट कर देंगे 32 lakh. अब पेमेंट जो कर रहे हैं in the form of shares and in cash. Shares जो दे रहे हैं 1,60,000. Here you have calculated. 1,60,000 shares are issued. The face value of each share is 10 rupees, but it is issued at an agreed price of 15 rupees. 10 रुपये का शेयर है लेकिन 15 रुपए में इश्यू कर रहा, 5 रुपये प्रीमियम है, तो कैपिटल अलग प्रीमियम अलग कर दे. टू इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल 1,60,000 into 10, 16 lakh. To security premium 1,60,000 into 5, 8 lakh. To bank 8 lakh. Add up the three amounts, you will get 32 lakh, being the purchase consideration paid. Next entry will be debentures. The debentures which are coming from Janata Limited are cancelled by 10% premium. Deluxe Limited ये कह रहा है कि जो जनता लिमिटेड में जितना डिबेंचर्स है उसको 10% प्रीमियम ऐड करेंगे. तो पहले से 15 लाख रुपीज आर द डिबेंचर्स इन द बुक्स ऑफ जनता लिमिटेड. 15 लाख का 10% 1,50,000 उसमें ऐड कर दिया 1,50,000. अब 16,50,000 के मॉर्गेज डिबेंचर्स विल बी इश्यूड बाय डीलक्स लिमिटेड, बाय डीलक्स. अब ये प्रीमियम जो एक्स्ट्रा पे कर रहे हैं दैट विल बी एडेड टू गुडविल. जनता लिमिटेड में इतना गुडविल है कि इसको ज्यादा पे करना पड़ रहा. डीलक्स लिमिटेड हैव टू पे मोर, तो दैट्स व्हाई गुडविल अकाउंट विल बी डेबिटेड 1,50,000. Being the old debentures of Janata Limited cancelled and new mortgage debentures of Deluxe Limited are issued at a premium of 10%. Now last, cost of absorption. Given in the problem that the cost of absorption is borne by Deluxe Limited, 5,000, 6,000. So entry will be goodwill account debtor to bank, 6,000. That's it. Being the cost of absorption paid or being the liquidation expenses paid. These are the general entry in the books of Janata Limited and Deluxe Limited. Hope you understood the complete solution, got the complete knowledge. So we'll continue this in the next video, that is problem number 15. Now we'll start problem number 15. 14 problems we have already completed. The balance sheet of A Limited on 31st December 1998 was as follows. The balance sheet of A Limited is given. 8,000 equity share of rupees 50 each fully paid, 4 lakh. General reserve 50,000. Workman accident compensation fund 30,000. Outstanding liability is 8,000. That means out of 30,000, 8,000 rupees is the liability. Remaining 22,000 should be transferred to equity shareholders account. That will be treated as accumulated profit. तो बाइफरकेट कर देंगे. अगर वो प्रॉब्लम में 8,000 लायबिलिटी नहीं देता तो कंप्लीट 30,000 विल बी ट्रांसफर टू इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स फंड, इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स अकाउंट. बट हियर आउट ऑफ 30,000 इट इज सेइंग 8,000 इज द लायबिलिटी, तो 8,000 विल गो टू रियलाइजेशन अकाउंट एंड 22,000 रुपीस विल गो टू equity shareholders account. 1,007% debenture of 50 each. Sundry creditors, bank overdraft, staff provident fund. All these are outside liability. तो ये प्रॉब्लम है. स्टाफ प्रोविडेंट फंड इज अ लायबिलिटी, बैंक ओवरड्राफ्ट इज अ लायबिलिटी, सन्ड्री क्रेडिटर इज अ लायबिलिटी, डिबेंचर इज एन आउटस्टैंडिंग लायबिलिटी, इज एन आउटसाइड लायबिलिटी, एंड लास्ट वन वर्कमैन एक्सीडेंट कंपनसेशन फंड इज आल्सो लायबिलिटी अप टू 8,000. नाउ एसेट साइड, land and building, plant and machinery, furniture, stock, debtors, less provision for doubtful debts 5,000, then cash 2,000, discount on issue of debentures. This discount on issue of debenture is a fictitious asset, imaginary asset. It will be transferred to equity shareholders account. The business of A Limited is taken over by B Limited. So B Limited is a transferee company. A Limited is a transferor company, vendor company. On that date, the PC is to be discharged as follows. A payment in cash of rupees 10 for every share in A Limited. A लिमिटेड के एक शेयर के ऊपर 10 रुपीज कैश. तो हाउ मेनी शेयर्स आर देयर इन A लिमिटेड? बैलेंस शीट में दिया 8,000. 8,000 shares are there in A limited. So 8,000 into 10, 80,000 rupees cash will be paid. Second, an exchange of 5 shares in B limited of rupees 10 each at the market value of 15 rupees per share for every 2 shares in A limited. A limited के 2 shares के ऊपर B limited अपने 5 shares दे रहा, 5 shares it is allotting. For every 2 shares, 5 shares are allotted by B limited. The face value of each share is 10 rupees, but it is issued at the market rate of 15 rupees. Show the realization account, cash account and sundry shareholders account in the books of A limited. The expense of liquidation of 5,000 were borne by A limited. Here the cost of liquidation is borne by vendor company. That means transferor company, A limited itself. Previous so many problems we have done where the liquidation expense were paid by the transferee company. But in this form it is paid by the transferor company. So entry will be realization account data to cash or bank, anything you can take, right? So first in this problem we are not required to pass any journal entries. Directly we have to make only ledger accounts in the books of transferor, that is A limited. So first of all, calculation of PC, it's very simple because only 2 forms are given, cash and shares. First we take shares in B limited. For every 2 shares in A limited, 5 shares in B limited. It is clearly given in the problem. For 8,000 shares in A limited की बैलेंस शीट में देखिए 8,000 शेयर्स है, तो उसके बदले में कितने शेयर्स आएंगे B के पास से? तो 8,000 divided by 2 into 5, you will get 20,000 shares. So 20,000 shares will be given by B limited to A limited. The face value of each share is 10 rupees, but it is issued at an agreed price of 15 rupees. So 20,000 into 15, 3 lakh. So 3 lakh rupees worth of shares are issued by B limited. Cash. For every 1 share in A limited, cash rupees 10. For 8,000 shares in A limited, how much cash? So 8,000 into 10, you will get 80,000. So 80,000 cash and 3 lakh rupees shares. So total PC comes to 3,80,000. First point completed. Now we are required to make 3 accounts. Which are the 3 accounts? Realization account, bank account and equity shareholders account. We can call it as sundry shareholders or equity shareholders. Now, realization account. The first entry, remember, if you are perfect in entry, easily you can make the ledger accounts. The only requirement is you must know what is the first entry, what is the second entry, what is the third entry, like that. Easily, without any difficulty, you can make the ledger accounts. The first entry, transfer all assets to realization. Entry will be realization account data to all assets individually. तो realization को debit करना है, तो realization के debit side to land and building, to plant and machinery, to furniture, to stock, to debtors, cash, up to cash. These are the assets which are taken over, by B limited. All the assets, right? Then second entry will be, and one more point, debtors are transferred at the gross value. Problem में कैसा दिया है? Asset side के ऊपर debtors inner column 1 lakh less provision for doubtful debts 5,000, outer column 95,000. So net amount of debtors are 95,000 and gross amount of debtors are 1 lakh. So while passing this first entry, take the gross debtors 1 lakh. Now second entry, transfer the liabilities which are taken over. All the liabilities are taken over. Transfer the liabilities taken over and provision for doubtful debts. To realization. So entry will be all liabilities account that are individually, provision account that are to realization. So realization को credit करना है. तो credit side पर by workman compensation fund liability वहाँ पर 8,000 है. 7% debenture 50,000, creditor 40,000, bank overdraft 10,000, staff provident fund 40,000, provision for doubtful debts is 5,000. So up to provision for doubtful debts, these are all the liabilities and provision transferred, and up to cash are the assets transferred. First 2 entries complete. The third entry will be PC due, purchase consideration due. The entry will be B limited account debtor to realization. B limited account debtor to रियलाइजेशन, तो रियलाइजेशन को क्रेडिट करना है बाय बी लिमिटेड पीसी. हाउ मच इज द पीसी? 3,80,000. एंड वन मोर लास्ट एंट्री, रियलाइजेशन एक्सपेंसेस. तो एंट्री फॉर रियलाइजेशन एक्सपेंसेस, रियलाइजेशन अकाउंट डेटा टू बैंक, realization account data to bank or cash. We have taken to cash 5,000. Liquidation expenses. So we have taken all the items to realization. Now we have to see which side is more, debit side is more or credit side is more. Now you take separately the total of debit column and total of credit side. Then what you find is debit side is more. Debit side is more. So from this debit side total 6,27,000, subtract all credit items up to 3,80,000. The balancing figure you will get 94,000. So when debit side is more, it is a loss. अगर credit side ज्यादा रहता realization में तो profit होता. Debit side अगर realization में ज्यादा है तो it's a loss. तो how much is the loss? 94,000 balancing figure. And this loss should be transferred to equity shareholders. So entry will be equity shareholders account data to realization. Equity shareholders account data to realization. तो realization को क्रेडिट करेंगे by equity shareholders 94,000. चलिए completed. Realization account is completed. Now we'll come to second, bank account. Bank account. How much is the cash received from B Limited? 80,000 already in PC we have calculated. 80,000 rupees are received from B Limited. तो बैंक अकाउंट डेटा टू बी लिमिटेड, बैंक में डेबिट कर दिए टू बी लिमिटेड, पीसी आ गया 80,000. आउट ऑफ दिस 80,000 वन पेमेंट इज मेड. व्हाट इज दैट पेमेंट? लिक्विडेशन एक्सपेंसेस 5,000. लिक्विडेशन एक्सपेंस 5,000 आर बोर्न बाय ए लिमिटेड देमसेल्फ. तो एंट्री विल बी रियलाइजेशन अकाउंट डेटा टू बैंक. तो रियलाइजेशन को डेबिट कर दिए, बैंक को क्रेडिट कर दिया बाय रियलाइजेशन एक्सपेंसेस 5,000. तो 80,000 में से जो आए 80,000 जो आए उसमें से 5,000 पे कर दिए. तो रिमेनिंग 75,000 रुपीज विल बी पेड टू इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स. किसको देंगे? इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स सेटलमेंट के. नाउ विल कम टू द इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स अकाउंट. द एंट्री फॉर ट्रांसफरिंग द इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल एंड एक्यूमुलेटेड प्रॉफिट्स टू इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स. एंट्री विल बी इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल अकाउंट डेटा, accumulated profits account data to equity shareholders account. तो शेयर कैपिटल को डेबिट करना, accumulated profits को डेबिट करना और इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स को क्रेडिट करना. तो इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स क्रेडिट साइड बाय इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल 4 लाख, बाय जनरल रिजर्व 50,000, बाय वर्कमैन कंपनसेशन फंड 30,000 minus 8,000 22,000. So we have transferred the equity capital and accumulated profits to equity shareholders. Now payment. एक लॉस भी है, डिस्काउंट ऑन इश्यू ऑफ डिबेंचर्स दैट इज गिवन ऑन द एसेट साइड ऑफ द बैलेंस शीट. दैट्स अ फिक्टिशियस एसेट दैट शुड बी ट्रांसफर्ड टू इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स. एंट्री विल बी इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स अकाउंट डेटा टू डिस्काउंट ऑन इश्यू ऑफ डिबेंचर्स. डिस्काउंट ऑन इश्यू ऑफ डिबेंचर क्योंकि वो एसेट साइड पे दिया हुआ है तो इट शोज अ डेबिट बैलेंस. नाउ इफ यू वांट टू क्लोज यू हैव टू क्रेडिट. डिस्काउंट ऑन इश्यू ऑफ डिबेंचर्स को क्रेडिट करना, तो डेबिट किसको करेंगे? इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स. इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स अकाउंट डेटा टू डिस्काउंट ऑन इश्यू ऑफ डिबेंचर्स. डेबिट साइड टू डिस्काउंट ऑन इश्यू ऑफ डिबेंचर्स 3,000. अब रियलाइजेशन का लॉस हो. व्हाट इज द एंट्री फॉर रियलाइजेशन लॉस? जस्ट नाउ आई टोल्ड इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स अकाउंट डेटा टू रियलाइजेशन. इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स अकाउंट डेटा टू रियलाइजेशन. तो इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स को डेबिट करना, रियलाइजेशन को क्रेडिट करना. यहां रियलाइजेशन को क्रेडिट कर दिए, अब इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स को डेबिट करेंगे टू रियलाइजेशन लॉस 94,000 हो गया. ऑल द एंट्रीज आर पोस्टेड एक्सेप्ट वन एंट्री, सेटलमेंट ऑफ इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स अकाउंट. जो पीसी आया था वो पीसी के पैसे, वो अमाउंट जो है इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स को दे देंगे. पीसी में शेयर्स आए थे, परचेस कंसिडरेशन में 3 लाख रुपीस के शेयर्स आए थे. These 3 lakh rupees of shares will be distributed to shareholders. Entry will be equity shareholders account data to equity shares in B Limited. Equity shareholders account data to equity shares in B Limited. तो डेबिट करेंगे टू इक्विटी शेयर्स इन बी लिमिटेड 3 लाख. ये 3 लाख रुपए के शेयर्स दे दिए. किसको दे दिए? इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स. अब कैश, जो कैश बचा हुआ है 75,000, That 75,000 rupees cash will also be given to equity shareholders. So entry will be equity shareholders account data to bank. Equity shareholders account data to bank. So to bank 75,000. यहाँ पर buy equity shareholders 75,000. Posted. All the entries we have posted. If you have not committed any mistake anywhere, then the total of equity shareholders account should get closed. डेबिट और क्रेडिट साइड का टोटल दोनों एक ही हो गया तो समझ जाना हमारा प्रॉब्लम वी हैव डन करेक्टली. अदरवाइज इफ यू हैव कमिटेड एनीवेयर सम मिस्टेक देन द टोटल ऑफ दिस इक्विटी शेयर होल्डर्स विल नॉट टैली. डेबिट साइड और क्रेडिट साइड दोनों एक ही अमाउंट नहीं आता अगर मिस्टेक करे तो. इफ यू हैव नॉट कमिटेड द मिस्टेक द टोटल विल बी सेम debit and credit. Here you can find 4,72,000 debit side, 4,72,000 credit side. That means we have done correctly. We have correctly posted. Right? So this is the first problem where we have prepared the ledger accounts. In the previous problems we have passed only journal entries. But ledger account you can make only if you are perfect on journal entries. So have a good command on the journal entries, then only we can make the ledger accounts. So okay viewers, 15 problems we have completed. Few more we will do.